Hey, how's it going? I want to welcome you to the AB Leadership Podcast. I want to thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. Wherever you're watching from, whether YouTube or you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, I just want to thank you so much. And you can also continue to be a part of this by leaving a comment and letting us know how maybe this helped you or how it blessed you in your ministry and your leadership. You can also subscribe on our YouTube channel, even subscribe to our podcast. Or if you want to get our monthly e-letter, all you have to do is leave us your email in the comment section or send us a DM and we'll be sure to add you to our email list. So there's a bunch of opportunities to get plugged in, and just once again, thank you for being a part of this and continue to share and spread the message of what's going on through this podcast as it's blessed you. This week, I'm excited to kind of share on this topic, and maybe it's a topic that many of you have never dealt with, or maybe you have, and if I can just be honest and transparent for a moment, I know that this is something that has definitely happened in my life and in my ministry, in different phases of my ministry. And oftentimes when we feel this way, we think it's a negative thing, but it's really not. And maybe some of you right now are like, okay, what are you talking about? I don't know if you've ever felt this way, but I have. Have you ever felt overwhelmed in ministry? Have you ever felt the weight and the pressure on you to the degree that it has created a sense of overwhelmness in your life, and you haven't known what to do with that feeling of being overwhelmed? Well, if you've ever had the feeling of being overwhelmed in ministry and in life, it's really a capacity issue. I really believe that God allows you to feel feel overwhelmed because there's something in you that He wants to do so that He can do something greater through you. Now, when I think of being overwhelmed, and we're going to just jump right into this, I would say, number one, being overwhelmed is the check engine light in our lives telling us that something needs to shift. Have you ever been driving and all of a sudden that check engine light comes on and you're so angry, you're like, oh my gosh, it's going to cost me a fortune. I don't know what it is. And you take it in and it's basically maybe like a fuse or a light bulb that needed to change. You see, that check engine light was trying to spare you of a bigger problem down the line. And if you take care of that issue right away, it'll eliminate that light being on, and it'll also fix your car so it can operate to its fullest capacity. I often think that when we feel overwhelmed in our lives, it's really the check engine light in our lives telling us, hey, something needs to shift in order for you to maximize your potential. Something needs to shift in order for you to be able to do more. And there's a biblical narrative. I'm not going to read the text, but you can reference there in Acts chapter 6, verses 1 through 7. Where the 12 apostles start feeling overwhelmed because the people are beginning to complain that they're not receiving food and they're not being fed in a proper time or in a proper manner. And the apostles realize, hey, we need to give ourselves to the preaching of the word, and we don't have time to feed the people. And it's a necessary component of our ministry. It's a necessary element. It's a good thing. We need to do it. But right now, we don't have the ability to feed the people and preach the word and spread the gospel. So we have to do something. So they come together, they have a conversation, and they realize we need to delegate this area of our ministry so that it can free us to continue to do what God has called us to do. Now, it doesn't mean that the feeding of the people wasn't as significant as the preaching of the word, because y'all know we got to eat. But it just meant that God was attempting to do something new. So they got together and they delegated about 7 men who were filled with the Spirit, that were able to feed the people so that they can continue to give themselves to the preaching of the word. And the Bible says that many more people came to faith and many priests came to faith because of the art of delegation. You see, the apostles came to a place in where they felt the pressure of ministry and they felt overwhelmed. You see, but them being overwhelmed didn't stop them in their tracks, and it didn't simply leave them in a place where they continued to run as is. They needed to make an adjustment. It was a check engine light that something needed to change so that we can elevate our capacity and elevate our reach. So really, being overwhelmed is a capacity issue. It's God attempting to elevate your capacity in order to maximize your reach and your influence. I want you to think about that. God is attempting to maximize not only your reach, but also your influence. So the question is right now, if you're feeling overwhelmed, what can you delegate? What weight can you distribute? And what can you let go of today so that you can be free to operate in the fullness of your purpose? Some of you right now are saying, well, I can't give away anything because I don't have people to help, or I'm the only one that can do this. Come on, let's be honest. Are you really the only one that can do what you're currently doing? And if so, maybe there's an issue within. And so my second point is this: leaders elevate in order to delegate. See, some of you right now are thinking, man, there's nobody on my team that can do this. I don't even have a team. I have like one person. Well, that's another capacity issue. But before you delegate, you have to elevate and prepare your leaders to give them the tasks that you want to give them or feel like you need to give them. You know, it's funny when I talk to a lot of pastors anywhere, pastors in different parts of the state, youth pastors, church planters, lead pastors, when I talk to a lot of pastors and they share with me their frustrations and their sense of feeling overwhelmed, I always ask them, how often do you meet with your leaders? Oh, well, we meet every now and again. Well, how often do you invest into your leaders? Well, whenever we have time. Well, what book are you going over with your leaders? Or what podcasts are you listening to? And you'd be surprised, they're not doing any of that. And so if you're not investing into your team, and if you're not investing into your leaders, then you can't expect you to move beyond the place that you're currently standing. So before you even begin to delegate, you need to elevate your leadership lid, but not only that, your leaders' leadership lid. So how do you do that? Well, you definitely need to start meeting with your team consistently, regularly. Put it on the calendar. It doesn't matter if people have 1,500 different schedules. I was a church planter in Los Angeles. Everybody was bivocational. It wasn't a blue-collar city. People didn't have Monday through Friday 9 to 5s. We had to figure it out. There were seasons where we had to use FaceTiming. There were seasons where we would have to meet in the night, seasons that would meet in the weekend, in the day. You have to also adjust for your season and for your team. I love the Maxwell principle. We use it on our team. We use it in our leadership structure. It's I do, you watch. We do, you do, I watch, and then you do. So you also have to invest into your leaders, but you also have to train your leaders on how to do the very thing that you're going to give them and delegate to them. And I also want you to understand how important delegation is. Statistically, a pastor can only pastor 150 people. You can only pastor 250 people without having a team around you. But if a pastor builds a team and begins to lead through those leaders, now you are not pastoring to, but now you are pastoring through your leaders, and you are expanding your capacity and your influence. Not only that, but you're investing and you're elevating the capacity of the people that are around you. And let me tell you, there's some people around you right now, they're watching you, they're on your team, and they're waiting for you to give them something to do. They're watching you sometimes struggle and drown in the works that you're doing, and they're like, put me in, coach. And so as leaders, you need to lead through your people, and sometimes that has to do with our own insecurities. And so sometimes we even have to work through those things. If I let this thing go and I allow this person on my team to do it and they crush it, is it going to make me look bad? No, it's going to make you look good. It's going to be a notch in your belt and a feather in your cap if the people around you are doing what you were doing better than you. It's just a sign and a mark of your leadership. And also, number 3, leaders delegate wisely. Like, be wise about your delegation. You can't just give stuff away to people and not use wisdom about it. And Nehemiah was wise about his delegation in the way that he structured people to rebuild the walls. And I'm going to read the scripture out of Nehemiah 3:23. It says, beyond them, Benjamin and Hazhub made repairs in front of their house, and next to them, Azariah, son of Maaseiah, the son of Ananiah, made repairs beside his house. Nehemiah was strategic and wise. When he delegated the tasks of the rebuilding of the wall, he assigned these men to rebuild the walls that were directly in front of their house. Now let's have this conversation. If the walls were broken in front of your house or your gate, and somebody assigned you to build those walls in front of your house, I guarantee you would put your best effort and your best foot forward in making sure that that gate was as strong and sturdy as possible. So Nehemiah was wise. He assigned assigning specific areas and specific people to do the tasks because he knew that they would crush it if he was wise in his delegation. So leaders delegate wisely. You want to give people tasks and responsibilities in alignment with their gifting and in alignment with their passion, because we know that they're going to crush it. And yes, there are moments that you got to delegate stuff that not everybody likes to do, but essentially you need to use wisdom. Wise delegation also creates clear-cut expectations. There's nothing like doing something and not knowing what's expected of you. It actually creates frustration in people when they don't know what the expectations are. So you want to communicate clear and cut expectations. Wise delegation also follows up. I'll never forget, I worked for somebody and they told me, you are the best delegator, but you are horrible at following up. Don't think that just because you delegated something that it's always going to get done. You have to be a wise steward and a wise leader and check back on the things that you've delegated. You have to follow up. You also need to understand that when you delegate, there's going to be a dip, but that dip will eventually lead to an increase. When you hand it over, it's almost like a bell curve. It's going to dip, but it'll bottom out, and then it'll go up further than when it first was handed off, because it's a change, it's a shift. But I guarantee you it's going to come out better than before. And you also have to know that delegation means that the people you delegate it to won't do it like you do, and it's probably going to be better, and you want to celebrate that win. You always want to celebrate whenever you delegate to people and they accomplish the task. So really quick, just going over those three things. Being overwhelmed is a check engine light in our lives telling us that something needs to shift. Leaders elevate in order to delegate, and leaders delegate wisely. I hope that you can take this material and introduce it into your ministry or into your leadership or into your business. I hope that it blesses you. Once again, we'd love to hear back from you. We'd love to hear some feedback. Maybe even let us know some things that you want me to talk about. You can also leave that in the comment section, but be sure to subscribe and share. And we look forward to seeing you again next month.